The Florida Gators are 2-2 with a tough schedule coming up, but which Florida Gators need to step up for the remainder of the season?
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews of the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Friday, Florida Gators. We're now only 8 days away from another game here, which I know it's not, it's super fun to go watch them lose and not look as good as we've seen throughout our lifetime. I still have a blast looking forward to every Florida Gators football game, and I will always want them to win. They will lose games regardless of whether I want them to win or not, so I will always root for them to win. Just want to say that even when they're bad, I still love my Florida Gators football. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And the first Florida Gator that needs to step up for the remainder of the 2024 season is Billy Napier. Is that cheating? I don't think it's cheating, because I think this is genuinely multi-pronged here, right? Let's start with Billy Napier's the head coach. So the most important part of your job is have your guys ready to play every week. Like, you're supposed to be the leader here. The CEO is what everybody likes to jump to as the analogy that we'll make, and we can run that, right? But part of the CEO's job is to make sure that your company is running as efficiently as possible. It hasn't been. What he needs to do here, minimum, he needs to do a better job of getting everyone actually ready to mentally play football every week. That's been one of my biggest issues with Billy Napier. That was the reason where it only took me until week 1 of this game, of this season, to go, I'm out on him. Just because if you are in year 3, you've either recruited all these guys to come here, or the holdovers have been with you for 2.5, now 3 years. They should know you, right? They should know you, respect you, trust you, and you can't get them to come ready to play every week. And for me, that's a major glaring concern. It is, regardless of who it was against. Miami, Texas A&M, they both came out really flat. Mississippi State, they didn't come out too hot either, right? So I think that when I look at that, I think that there's an issue with Billy Napier's ability to motivate this football team, with Billy Napier's ability to prepare this football team. And so for me, that's how I look at these things, where I say, you know what? Yeah, I have a hard time buying in there. You've got only a few more road games. What road games for the rest of the season? You've got Tennessee, Texas, Florida State at the end. That's it. Have your guys ready to play the home games. Have your guys ready to play the away games. Have your guys ready to play football. Okay? That's been an issue with far too many games under Billy Napier to this point. And I think when you look at a lot of the losses, a lot of them you just look at and you go, oh yeah, I remember that team just didn't come ready to play. That's what it is. They either win games or they are not in the mood at all to play football games. It's very interesting. Very incredibly frustrating as well. Next task for Billy Napier. He's the offensive play caller, right? Or he's the offensive coordinator, whatever. So if he's supposed to be the offensive mind, I put the offensive complaints and problems on him. We saw play calling open up a bit against Mississippi State. That needs to continue. And I said this after the game. I said this earlier this week. I don't care if the change was Billy Napier just deciding to open up the playbook. I don't care if the change was giving Russ Callaway play calling duties. I don't care if the change is giving Russ Callaway just more of a say in the offense. I don't care what the change was. Just do more of it. Not like you don't have to go crazy, but you can continue to develop upon this. Again, I don't think that putting up 45 against Mississippi State after Toledo put up 41, and after that's the most points you've ever scored against an FBS opponent as the head coach of the Florida Gators. I don't care about any of that. It worked, right? I'm not super impressed again doing that against Mississippi State, but it worked. Your team succeeded. Continue to open things up. We saw them go a little bit more up tempo at times. We saw them open things up. Continue to do that, please, and thank you. That's something that Billy Napier needs to continue to get better at. And again, I don't care what it is. I don't care what the change was. Continue it. Another thing with Billy Napier that I think that he can, and these are all things, by the way, that I think he can fix this season still. And I think one thing that he does pretty poorly is make tough decisions when they need to be made. If that's the depth chart needing, which again, I mean, I know at this point there's no literal depth chart for us, but you get my point. Whether that's a depth chart change, which I will give them credit, they've done some things like halftime of the game against Texas A&M, we saw Tony Livingston come out as the tight end opposite Hayden Hansen. It was a depth chart change. We've seen some changes at the safety level when a guy misses a tackle, and it's like, all right, well, for the next few drives, we don't see him. Maybe the rest of the game. I feel like that's a good change to see. But on the offensive line, at quarterback, I don't think that there's quick changes enough. Like, if you're going to commit to a guy, commit to a guy. If you're going to just want the offensive line to work, you need to make some changes because it looks pretty ugly at certain times right now, and that doesn't look great. We saw it last year. There were some corners that just kept getting beat repeatedly and would keep getting put out there. Like, things like that, this coaching staff under Billy Napier has not made the changes that they should be required to make. And so for me, I look at that and I say, that's on Napier. I also think that he's gone way too shy with, or he's been way too complacent with some things like the coaching staff. He fired Corey Raymond and Sean Spencer, and I feel very strongly that that was more mutual than people are thinking, in the sense that it was both wanted to leave. And I also feel pretty strongly in the thought that he did that partially because they had loose lips, and that's how things got leaked. Which, again, I feel like it might not be evidence, but we haven't had things leak much since then. So I feel like that might be part of it. But I feel like with how likely little time Billy Napier has left, I feel like he's not swinging for the fences enough. You know, like, I feel like you should really be swinging for the fences with basically everybody expecting you to be fired. I mean, honestly, already, let alone in the future. And so I feel like he should be taking more chances, taking more swings. Now looking at the actual players that need to get better, we'll talk about some of those next on Locked On Gators. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth, and these generous benefits are now available for only $5 per month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. And I don't know if you like to rep the Florida Gators, or if you're listening to this and you are not a Florida Gators fan, but you're listening for some reason, if you're listening with someone that's a Florida Gators fan, the best college apparel, homefieldapparel.com. And you can go get a football box that contains 3 never-before-seen items for your school, that are not available anywhere else. Curated so fans have new gear to wear all season long, suitable for all weather conditions. They even have a Platinum Box VIP, which has, first, let's just go the 2024 Platinum Pass, right? You get that, guaranteeing 20% off and early access to your school's releases through the 2024 season. Use code GATOR24 to save some money with homefieldapparel.com. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free breakfast in the podcast and on YouTube. And I have my next player that I need to step up. And I will tell you this, I'm not mentioning either of the quarterbacks today. I am telling you, though, Montrell Johnson is someone that I need to perform better. And here's the thing. I don't think Montrell Johnson has been playing poorly. And we've talked about this kind of a lot because I feel like he's not playing poorly, but he's not playing as well as the other backs. I think that when you look at Treon Webb, Jaden Ball, Jacoby Jackson, they're running better than Montrell Johnson is running right now. I'm not arguing that at all. I think that they look more explosive. I think they look better, more creative as ball carriers. I think they pick up better yardage. Absolutely agree with all of those things. I just don't like when people see other players outperforming someone like Montrell and they start diminishing Montrell and they go, oh, he's terrible. Like he stinks. He shouldn't be out there. None of that's true. Okay. Montrell Johnson, still a pretty decent back right now, right? He has not been playing poorly. He just hasn't been playing better than the people behind him. And like I mentioned last segment, I have no faith in Billy Napier to make the changes that I feel he should make. One of the changes I feel he should make is Montrell, less carries. But like I said, I don't trust Billy Napier to do that. So I'm asking Montrell to do the part that Billy Napier should be able to do, right? I don't think that Billy is going to bench Montrell at all this season. And I mean, my evidence is look at last season, how he didn't bench him. When I think pretty much everybody feels that Trevor Etienne was outperforming him, didn't bench him there. So we'll say that. Don't think he's going to bench him. Is he going to cut his carries significantly? I don't think that's going to happen either. Personally, that's what I would do. I would say, hey, we're going to take 4 carries from you a game, give 1 extra one to each of the backs behind you, and add another one in there somewhere. So I think that's one thing you can do. But again, I don't think that Billy is going to do either of those things. I don't think he's going to take touches away from Montrell Johnson. I don't think he's going to give more touches to the other backs, or at least at a rate that we all want and would appreciate. So I need Montrell to do more with his touches. Okay? I need Montrell Johnson to be more productive on a per touch basis, especially when he's the only running back that gets thrown the ball consistently. That's another part of it. He's getting the bulk of the carries. He's also the only one that they're throwing to with any sort of consistency. He needs to do more. I also think that it's important to acknowledge with Montrell Johnson that he tore his meniscus, a month and a half ago-ish, right? It was early, mid-August. I think most of us can remember it as that. So early, mid-August there. And he tore his meniscus, got the surgery, was ready to go by the Miami game, which is nuts. Was ready to go enough where he picked up a 71-yard rushing touchdown, which is also nuts. However, he has not been moving first. And again, this is the part where where he's not playing poorly, but he's not being as explosive as he's been throughout his career. He's not being as consistent as he is, and he's not breaking as many tackles as he used to force. He's not doing what we've expected from Montrell. He's picking up 3.08 yards after contact per carry. Last year, that was over 3.5. And I know that it's less than half a yard, but that stuff adds up. It does. Like that stuff adds up when we talk about doing things for 200 carries, 150 carries, whatever it may be. That adds up with every single carry that you add on to it. So I think that for me, that's part of it. I think Montreal, again, has not been as elusive as we've seen. I think the Texas A&M game was really bad for him. He's having trouble fighting through contact on with any sort of relative consistency, especially when he gets up near anybody that's strong. Like I feel like a linebacker or a D lineman gets in the backfield and get their hands on him, and he's done. And that's happening a lot. I do think that the offensive line is just playing worse. If it's the run calls with Montreal in there, I don't know what it is there, but let's hope that now that he's out of bye week, that he will hopefully be more toward the Montreal Johnson that we saw last year and the year before, where he can make explosive plays happen. And I know he wasn't the most explosive back ever, right? But you look at last year, he had a breakaway percentage of over 40%, or of 40%, sorry. The year before, he had a breakaway percentage over 50%, and this year he's at 37.5%. And breakaway percentages is carries that are 15 yards or longer. He's only had 2 so far this year. He had 13 last year, 16 the year prior. He's being less effective with his carries so far this season. Because last year, he had 152 total carries. And in the 12 games, that's 12.667 yards per carry. And right now, he's averaging 12 carries per game. And now he's getting 12 carries per game. He's getting same touches. He's just being less effective with them. And so for me, that's where I need Montreal Johnson to be someone that really steps up for this team, because he's going to continue getting the ball, and the offense is going to continue to be in unmanageable situations when he's getting the ball if he's not being explosive enough or productive enough. And so I'm asking Montreal to be the guy to step up, when really I should be asking the, head coach to be the guy to pick up. We will talk about the defense next on Locked On Gators. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, Malik Nabers to catch a pass on the next drive, Wan'Dale Robinson to catch a pass on the next drive, definitely wasn't something I was doing every New York Giants drive. That's preposterous. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Thanks for being Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free reviews on the podcast and on YouTube. And this last one is a bit of a twofer, okay? It's a bit of a twofer here because George Gums and TJ Searcy. And here's the thing. I know George Gums, everyone loves him. He's explosive. He looks really energetic. Something about him, you'll want to love him. And I do. I can't even explain it, but he's awesome to watch. He's fun to watch. Makes some pop plays every now and then. TJ Searcy, high-ranked commit when he was coming coming to Florida in this 2023 recruiting class. And so now he's in year 2, expected to take on a larger role. Looked good in limited snaps last year. I need more. I feel like his pass rush last year looked really raw, and in the you can actually I'll pull this up while we're talking with the scouting reports that we did for the Locked On Gators subtext. TJ Searcy, if I'm not mistaken, was one of them. TJ Searcy was one of them. And even during the spring game, I wrote that still shows a lot of promise, but hand fighting needs a lot of improvement. Doesn't look like he has a natural feel as a pass rusher, needs to develop more. We've seen him do a couple of moves. We've seen the bull rush, the long arm, inside rip. He hasn't really done anything creative or new that would pop out. And I feel like, again, that was written during the spring game, but I feel like it still stands for what TJ Searcy's done so far. I feel like he's been really ineffective as a pass rusher. He's got 4 pressures this season. 3 of them came against Miami. And if I'm not mistaken, 2 of them came on plays where Cam Ward was kind of scrambling around, and then TJ Searcy started running and got close to him. Because don't forget, it's not Like a pressure just means that you're getting closer to the quarterback, right? You're pressuring the quarterback. And so it felt like those were the pressures that TJ Searcy has this year. He's been relatively ineffective. George Gums, 4 pressures this year. 2 of them came against Miami in similar situations. One against Samford, one against Texas A&M. TJ Searcy's 4th pressure came against Samford. They've got a combined 1 pressure in the past 2 games, which for TJ Searcy is 21 pass rush reps. For George Gums is 30 pass rush reps. But I feel like neither of them have been really effective. And again, this is 2-pronged, I think. Partially, I think that they haven't been developed properly as pass rushers. I know that we've seen clips of them working with pass rush specialists, and we've heard so many great things about these guys during the offseason. But I can't think of a player that Mike Peterson's developed into a strong pass rusher. And I feel like this is just 2 more guys that we're looking at and we're going, not being developed into strong pass rushers. Because I think TJ Searcy has a lot of the moves that NFL teams look, or a lot of the tools that NFL teams look for in pass rushers. Like he's 6'5", 265 as a true sophomore. He's got power. I've watched. He's got power. But to this point, we haven't seen that from him so much. And again, part of it is because this defensive scheme is another thing. Like I mentioned, I don't think they're being developed enough, but part of it's the defensive scheme has them in coverage too frequently. Far too frequently. George Gums has been in coverage on 20% of the passing down snaps that he's played. So he's been in coverage on 16 out of his 80 pass defense snaps. If he's getting a pressure every 10, which I mean right now it's closer to 20, but if he's getting a pressure every 10 pass rush snaps and you're taking him off, it's a pressure and a half you're missing out on already, right? TJ Searcy's been in coverage on 32.4% of his pass defense snaps. So even more of a drop off there, right? If these are supposed to be your premier edge rushers, I don't know. Maybe let them rush off the edge. I mean, it could be. I'm not getting paid 7 figures to do this, but I feel like TJ Searcy and George Gums should be performing better. I think part of it is on them. I think part of it is on the coaching staff. I honestly place more blame on the coaching staff than anything else. I don't think that you're giving them enough pass rush opportunities. Like TJ Searcy basically drops into coverage 1 out of every 3 pass defense snaps. What the hell is that? Like, I don't think I've ever seen that from a guy that's supposed to be a true edge rusher. I don't think I've ever seen him drop into pressure like that or drop into coverage like that instead of rushing the passer. George Gums, more reasonable, you know? He's been on the field for 80 pass defense snaps. 16 of them have been in coverage. 5 of them came against Mississippi State, which, again, was something I kind of expected to see edge rushers in coverage against Mississippi State. That's something that we've seen from a similar defensive system last year, was dropping edge guys against the brow spread. Makes sense. Understand it. But I think this is, again, guys not doing enough on a per opportunity basis and guys not being given enough opportunities to pop. And I want to bring this up again. I understand I'm not harping on Princely leaving. That's not what I'm getting at. But I want you, and I know that there's people already typing in the comments that like Princely go, like, oh, like he left, who cares? He didn't hustle enough, bad run defender, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Here's the thing about Princely, and I want you to just listen. Stop cursing me out for a second. But part of the reason Princely left Florida was because of the scheme not allowing edge rushers to rush as often as he wanted to. Okay? Part of it was this scheme not allowing edge rushers to be edge rushers. Asking edge rushers to be slot corners at times. which again, even occasionally is fine, but like it's happening too frequently. Okay. So looking at that, I want to just let it be known again. That's part of why Princely's not here, because he wanted to rush the passer. And by the way, he's being given the opportunity to rush the passer at Ole Miss, and he's thriving. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Crazy how that works, that when you don't ask the pass rusher to drop into coverage all the time, he could be pretty damn productive doing it. Wild theory. But that was part of it. So I think that I put more blame on the coaches, but I also think that they've just been underwhelming in general off the edge, the players. I think they need to be better. Coaches need to be better in long term, but again, they won't be here that much longer, I think. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back not tomorrow. We'll be back Monday at the latest. Maybe something happens this weekend. Who knows? We'll be back Monday at the absolute latest to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI.com, and I'll see you all next time.